Okay, I have a Surcom SW-102. It's SWR, watt meter, and frequency. And I have a dummy load on there, which I've reviewed and tested with my Nano. And it was dead on, 50 ohms, exactly what we need. The only negative thing I could say about is the display. It's a little bit on the dim side, but other than that, it works. And I have 3, 4, 5 radios I've already tested. The wattage, SWR, stuff like that, all worked. This is the only one I haven't yet. And let me just activate it. It's TidRadio, the H3, TD-H3. I have the H3 and the H8. I have 2 of those and have one of this, another one coming in. I'm impressed with it. It seems to pass all my tests that I've been doing so far. And it's great the way it's organized, the menus, things of that sort. I will show a video there later on for it. Okay, let's just do a quick check. I got it. This is dual band, which means I can receive on 2 bands at the same time. Plus, it has a separate button for each transmit. So if I hit this one here, let me just zoom in on that screen. Hold on. Okay. I'm just going to zoom in on that. Okay, it's running off B, which is battery. And it was 4.72 watts. And frequency was 144. To read the SWR, I have to maintain the transmit. There you go. 1. Dead on. Now let me do the other one. Gain 438, 6.19 watts. This particular unit is supposed to be 1 and 5 watts, so it works great. I am impressed. Okay. If you're looking for a radio, there's good reasons to go for the TidRadio H3 and H4. There are other brands out there. Plus, I would recommend going directly and ordering it through TidRadio itself instead of going through AliExpress. Their shipping, everything, it's just a little bit more simpler and you get more support. Okay, this should be one item you should be aware regarding the Surcom. There's 3 buttons, and you've got to get to know how to play with those buttons to get into settings, flipping the screen upside down, things of that sort. But once it's set up, you probably never have to touch it again. And I have this unit was just to test the handheld radios that I have. In particular, the TidRadio H3 and the H8. I have 2 H8s. I have 1 H3, as I mentioned before. I have another one coming in, plus a programming firmware update cable that will be required in some of the updates. The plan is to give a complete review on it, but also how to program, how to use the various apps like Chirp and OD Master, and what's required to do the firmware update. They're very aggressive with their updates. There's a lot of updates going on, and adding and taking feedback from users and implementing those changes. So I'm quite pleased with that. This will come later on. We're still waiting for some equipment. In the meantime, if you're interested in getting one, if you go to TidRadio.com and use SimplyOffGridLife, you'll get a 10% discount on the unit if you're interested in it. It would be appreciated at this end. Okay, the unit, of course, comes with a cradle, charger, things of that sort. Everything that you need. the way you see it. The cradle's in a different place right now for the H3. These are the H8. I kind of like the H8. It is bigger, which could be a disadvantage to some. However, it's really designed for serious ham users, I think, more so than this. But it works for both. You get an output of 10 watts versus 5 watts. The numeric pad is bigger. Screen is a little bit bigger. I've taken the H3 out for a test run outside while traveling, and quite impressed with the display. I have older units, even the old Icon, and it's hard to read indoors, let alone outdoors. So I am impressed. If you're looking for the maximum range of receive and transmit, then the H3 is the way to go. Okay, this is a quick screenshot of the menu items that functions, if you want to call it, that you can change. For example, your backlight, you can have it on for 5, 15, 30 seconds or continuous. And whether you want to hear the beep noise every time you press a keypad, you can turn it off. You also can turn on the option of dual band receive. You would need to have the sync on and I believe the D weight on, which is highlighted in red. And if you're listening to AM radio, then you would turn on the AM radio. I like the way they have the menu and access to the menu on both radios. Very clean, very easy, and can be quick. If I want to, for example, turn off the voice, I just go into hit menu, hit 14, and make the changes, and then hit menu to get out. I don't have to scroll through it. But if you can't remember where to turn off the voice or where to go low, high, medium power, the H8 has 3 power levels, low, medium, high, while the H3 has just the low and high. I've tested the output on all my devices, and they're all within specs, so not a problem. I do know the H8 from online views that the current second gen, when it comes to harmonics, seem to have passed. It's just a matter of determining if the quality of that remains. I have plans to also test for harmonics. As for the H3, I have not yet found a site that have tested it in detail, whether it will pass the harmonic suppression. But if that's a concern, I would then stick with the H8 second generation. Don't go for the first. I don't think any more of those are available, but the second generation. So it's about 54 settings, and I believe the April the 4th of this year firmware update adds a few more. I think it's about in the high 40s for the H3. So when it comes to menu, making selections, it's a breeze. Love it. Having a sheet printout like this, that won't take long before you get to know it. The OD Master, the web version or the app version, it needs to be updated. Some of these settings are not available, and so you'll have to manually make those changes after you do your syncing. Okay, this is my database using FileMaker. Showing this to give you an indication the information that you can program and change. Plus you can export, import through Chirp or even the OD Master web or app for the iPhones and Androids, I believe. And this is for the TD-H3, and the same frequencies I have programmed are also on my TD-H8. So for me, it covers more than I need. But if you're looking for wider receiving capabilities, then the TD-H3. And if size is important, then the TD-H3 is great. When it comes to power, 5 watts, 10 watts, it can be handy at times, but if I need long distance communication more than handheld, I would be using a mag mount or an antenna outside, which is probably be the best idea for either units. So there you go. I have launched Chrome and connected to OD Master website. Not sure if that's the proper pronunciation, Odd Master or OD Master. I just like OD Master. And the reason why I'm using Chrome on my Mac instead of Safari is that it doesn't support Bluetooth. This does. I've already paired my TD-H3, which is the only device running right now. Before you do a read or write to your radio, you need to determine what reset option you would need. You have the first option where it's a ham radio. That's its priority use. 2, second option is GMRS service. And 3 is open. The advantage of 3, which is open, it allows me to monitor not just the ham bands, but also to monitor the GMWRS and other frequencies that are outside the band. Strictly for listening. If you're like a shortwave listener, you might like that, and the H3 gives you more option than the H8. Let's keep that in mind. To enable that, the unit is powered off. You would be holding, I believe, the star and the push to talk button, and then you power up, and you see a menu option of 1, 2, and 3. In order to select it, I believe you got to hold the Bluetooth button long enough, and it will set that option. On the H8, you have a slightly different option. I have both the star, the 0, and the pound. So the star would be the ham bands, the 0 would be the GMRS, and the pound would be open. That's the only difference. You still got to use the power button and push to talk. So that's how it works. So once you've decided on that, you want to do a read, because the database that it creates is dependent on which option you selected. If, for example, you selected the ham, you won't be able to enter frequencies outside its limits, even for receive. So that's the first thing. In my case, I created all of mine as open. Not that I have an interest in it, but I can then listen if I want to. The marine channel, for example, when I'm boating, or even some of the airport activity, airplanes, balloon enthusiasts, gliders. Yeah, there are channels that they use dedicated for that purpose. If you looked at my previous display of my database, you will notice some of those options were listed. Let's say I want to do an update or a change. I will select this, update. It will load and it will list all the frequencies that I have programmed in here. And if you want it to scan or not to scan or to be skipped, You can set the power level. And then you have the options. This is where Audio Master, web or app, needs an update. A lot of these parameters are outdated. In other words, if you have a current version of the firmware, there'll be a lot of functions that you can't select here, so you would have to then do it afterwards. Hopefully we'll see this update coming in the near future. And then you have options for A band, B band, FM stations. So you have the settings. So once you're happy with it, you can then write. Here's the option of read. And I could export or import, for example, from Chirp. Save changes, name your file, or just close it. If you want to set up a new radio, you hit the add button. It'll ask you to select the model first. So you have the open, you have the ham, and you have the GMRS. So you select that, add open, and then you want to read. Okay, let's see. I must have forgotten something here. Oh yes, I had the radio. I think my radio was scanning. Okay, let's try this again. And I have to reconnect my Bluetooth because I turned it off. Hit pair. There you go. Of course, I programmed it already, but just to illustrate, this is what you need to do to initially read. Or you can start from scratch and then do an import instead. So basically that's it. Hit close. I'm not going to save it. There you go. And if I do go back to my bookmark, hold on. There, I had to do a refresh to get out of that window. Okay. This is how it works. Okay, this is how Chirp looks when you first launch it. Go online on internet, type in a search for Chirp programming. You will find the link, select it, and follow its recommendation, and it will bring you to a download page where it will recommend the proper program for your operating system. It will, for example, recognize that I have a Mac and will give me the Mac option or the window for Microsoft Windows. What's nice about this is that I can go to my repeater book, select whatever conditions I want, and it will import it. You can, for example, say I just want certain frequencies, certain bands, like 2 meters or 77 meters or whatever. It's there, or GMRS stations. And also the mode, FM. And then it's just a matter of exporting this as a CSV file. And I believe if you have the COM port, you can even download from the radio. Which seems to work. Okay, when I first got my H3, I was able to read from my H3 radio to chirp, and this is the way it would look, depending, of course, what's already programmed. And it actually gives you the settings that you would see on the OD master. Same thing. There you go. It works. However, there is a problem that occurred. Shortly after I did this, I have several files I managed to save before this happened. There was an update. I'm not sure. I believe it was my operating system got updated or Chirp got updated. And for some reason now my ports are not showing. So I'm in the process of troubleshooting to find out why. I want to be sure that it wasn't an issue with my USB cable that I was using, or even the USB-C port on the radio. That's why I'm waiting for some equipment so I can verify that before I spend too much time trying to troubleshoot. But this video of this screen is to give you an idea of what you would see once you've downloaded your settings there from your radio. Okay, I'm going to show you how to reset your radio. You have the push to talk button right here. You have to press that, hold it, and the start button on the key, and then power up the unit. And there you go. You have the option. Ham, GMRS, normal. I select normal. One thing you want to remember, if you hit the wrong key, it won't reset. I believe you got to hold the Bluetooth button long enough. One way to test that you properly got a proper reset is to go into the parameter menu settings, then turn off the voice. If it gets reset, then the voice will come back on. If it didn't get reset, you're going to hear the voice. So then you know you weren't successful. I'm just going to turn it off. This is for the H3. Let's see if it, basically the H8 is not that much bigger. I like it. Anyways, a little bit different. Yes, the push to talk. If I hold the start button, it will reset to ham. If I hold the 0 button with the push to talk and power up, it will reset to GMRS. And then if I hold the pound on the keypad and the push to talk and power up, it'll be the open. That's the only difference between the two for setting up. Okay. I have not found anything really negative about these radios so far. Mind you, I'm still got more testing to do. I'm just kind of doing a quick review of the things you'll probably end up doing once you have one of these units. Hopefully this helps. Okay, I just show you how to access the menu. First of all, this blue is your Bluetooth. You hold it down. If you notice right in the corner, the Bluetooth symbol went away. So you got no Bluetooth. Normally, the only time you want to turn on Bluetooth is when you're doing programming or connecting to something. So you hold it down again and it comes back on. One thing that's very interesting about the H3, if you have more than one radio, and let's say you picked a second radio later on, and you're not near a computer or anything like that, you can take your current radio, let's assume this is the one, there's a settings that you would turn on, and you can program the other radio that it's an actual clone. It'll have all the same settings to the other radio. You do it via Bluetooth. Plus, you can also sync one channel if you want to. That's in a menu item, which I'll discuss at another time. So, thought I'd mention that. The H8, at the current firmware, doesn't have that option. There's no reason why it couldn't. Okay, this is a quick picture of the frequency ranges between the H3 and the H8. There's one interesting thing that the H8 has. It has more function keys. Look, there's little buttons on the side where you can turn on a lamp, or there's other options like radio, monitor, weather, things of that sort. And I also got listed how you got to turn on the menu item 47 function so that you can clone. Right now, they seem to be focused on the H3. So, this orange button, VFO, memory. And this Bluetooth, if it's just a quick press, will give you your functions. FM is set up for wide, and then you can scroll through, set your squelch, your transmitter. If you want to change that, you hit the blue again, and hit one of those keys, low, and then hit the blue again. So if I was to hit it, it'll be set at low. If I want to change it, there you go, back to high. And let's say I want a particular menu. Let's see, 9 or 5. Right now I have my backlight set for continuous. If I hit the menu again, I can scroll through 30 seconds, 15, 10, 5 seconds, and continuous, which I'm doing this right now. I just love the way they have the menu set up. I have several other radios, ICOM, Welcome, name it. I've been a ham radio operator since the 70s, so I went through a lot of different radios. I think they have the interface just about perfect. A few more suggestions and they'll reach perfection. It's exactly the same thing on the H8. The only thing is the cloning, I believe, is not yet updated on that. Now, why would you need one of these radios? And let me just put this down. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. First of all, they're ideal if you have a valid emergency. You're able to use these radios. When I say valid, especially when you're not licensed for certain frequencies, it better be a valid reason. Not I have a headache, need an aspirin, it's not going to work. These radios are available as a GMRS option. You, of course, will need to check the applicable legal requirements. Different countries have different limits. For example, you can only use a rubber ducky, can't use an outside antenna, limited to 2 watts. It varies. So that's your responsibility to find out what the requirements are. I find this very handy when you're, for example, hiking, fishing, doing RVing, off-grid activities. There's no cell service. There's a group. You can communicate with one another. Even when you're traveling together and you have no cell service, the vehicle in front can tell you, oh, there's a big pothole or something of that sort. There's also another area where you'd be surprised how many people have radio communication. They're usually known as shortwave listeners. That's what they enjoy listening. It gives them a sense of contact when they're alone, especially if you're a van lifer. Outside cell service doesn't exist. This is where ham radio comes in handy because I have access to repeaters that often cover areas that are missing. And if you're really off-grid, you can set these radios for AMSAT satellite communication. They do have FM orbiting satellites. Of course, you have to have a ham radio license. And you basically have a little tripod set up with an antenna where you point towards the path of the satellite. So there's many options. Okay. There is something I need to be sure you understand the difference between the H3 and the H8. The H8, I call it the second generation. Transit ranges from 144 to 148 megahertz. That's the VHF band. And on UHF, 420 to 450 megahertz. The receive starts from 136 and goes up to 174. And on the UHF, 400 to 512 megahertz, which I think is probably more than adequate for most. But if you're a shortwave listener, the transmit range on UHF, it's on the H3, starts at 400 megahertz instead of 420. Okay, so there's a slight increase in UHF transmit. Yes, 400. Okay, that's verifying. And of course, you can receive eight different bands, like 50 to 76, and then 76 to 108, 108 to 136, 174 to 350, 350 to 400, 470 to 600 megahertz. And I believe with the April 4th update of this year, they have the 27, 28 megahertz range. That's something I won't know until I do an update. As for the quality built, both of them feel nice. I basically mentioned enough about the quality built and its capacities. Area of improvements. I love the Bluetooth features because you can do programming. There is a USB-C connection on both phones and the battery, so you can charge using USB-C and your Apple charger or whatever other charger you have. They provide one with each unit. It's supported, or if it's going to be planned, is firmware update to be done via Bluetooth. Right now, I believe you need to run Windows and a Windows app, and I believe you have to use I don't know what they call those cables. They use the push to talk and the mic input and plug into USB. I believe it's the only way right now, but I'm trying to verify that. And of course, the Audio Master app and the web application, they need to match the firmware releases a little bit quicker. Otherwise, you might not be able to use it until the update occurs, or you have to do the manual settings yourself. There's also another feature apparently that's in development, and to avoid distracted driving, Bluetooth mic and push talk box options. I believe they may have started it or have some of that stuff. I'm not sure yet because I have not researched it or looked into it. But with distracted laws in effect in a lot of countries, it's something you may want to look into if you're going to do a lot of mobile use.